Previously on Podcast Without Pretense.
Guys, could we just maybe take a week off from watching these movies?
Cats should always be talking all the time. And I mean cats Meyer, not like kitty cats.
The kids are just all into interpretive dance now. That's it.
Good times.
Yep. Hi, I'm Jonathan Strickland.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Eric Sandine.
And together, we like to kick things around, see where the night takes us, you know.
Yeah. Let's explain what we normally talk about a movie on this show, because actually we used to not have any topic whatsoever. But then we somehow settled on watching shitty movies.
That was my fault, I think.
And if you don't know what that's about, just watch another fucking episode. I mean, I'm not explaining that anymore.
Any other episode in the last year and a half, 2 years, something like that?
Yeah, one of the 80 episodes that focus on movies. Anyway, because I was behind at work today, I could not watch the movie. I planned to come home at 5 and watch whatever this talking cat movie, the thing
Thunder,
I picked.
Something.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Magic Castle.
Who picked the movie? The guy who couldn't watch it.
I really was going to watch it. I thought about watching it with my son over the weekend, but then I was like, well, technically that would suck, but maybe I can watch it while he's not around. But because I didn't want to have another time. You want to be
careful, because I hear there's cursing in that movie. There are 3 dams. Yeah. 4 if you count the song.
So my boy is about almost 5, and he knows adult words. So I asked him.
Shocker.
I asked him, what adult words do you know? And he's like, fucking goddamn it. And I'm like, I just started laughing my ass off because he knew a whole bunch of them. And they're like, and we're
but
like,
I like to imagine that was the actual introduction to his next statement, which was, what adult words do you know? Fucking goddamn it. All right. So there's shit. There's.
I think it would have been great if he just went into, just immediately plunged directly into George Carlin's routine on the 7 words you're not allowed to say on TV.
He doesn't seem to know cocksucker yet, but he does.
So
know
he hasn't watched
Deadwood.
Deadwood.
No, but he doesn't. He doesn't know not to use it during the course of a day, and us laughing doesn't mean that he should be doing it. But I might have him perform that trick on the 404. So watch that on Friday, or listen to it on Friday. So he'll be over. So that's going to be insane. So I had a lot of work today. I was doing some Netflix work. There's a post going up tomorrow. I can't tell you what's going to be about, but I mean, you guys know what I cover, so you'll see it tomorrow if you want to know what's happening. But I had a lot of videos to shoot today, so it was a good day. It was a really good day. How about you, Eric? Did you have a good day?
Yeah, I did have a good day. I did lots of things on the internet and pushed some code and things. So yeah, it was a good day. I don't normally record videos in my day job, so sadly, I will not have that experience.
Well, you're doing it now, dumbass.
Well, and again, I'm not good at it, as this is evidence of. So listen, not what they pay me for.
Oh yeah, so again, we're not going to talk about this movie, other than the fact that I haven't watched the movie. It's my fault. We'll talk about it next week. Jonathan?
Yeah.
Are you still there? Do you have a hat?
I'm still here. It's over there, but yes, I do have a hat.
Why are you not wearing your hat?
I mean, I can put it on if you want me to. It's just huzzah! There we go. This is great for the audio listeners.
I think the hat.
It's an understated number.
Yeah, that's definitely the still for the episode. Right there.
Yeah, no, that's my Renaissance Festival hat. That's what I used to wear as my the character that I used to play at the Renaissance Festival. And I'm actually gonna this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, they do Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So I'm gonna go in on Saturday as my old character, the Lord Admiral, who's kind of a Disney villain, more on the goofy side of Disney villains type of character, very pompous and egotistical and dumb as a bag of hammers. And then Monday, assuming that I feel all right, because the weather is pretty hot and humid down here already, I'm not going to work Sunday at all. But Monday, I might go in as my alternate character, which is the town ghost, who is not actually a ghost. He's a the joke at the festival is that each character has a specific job, and so the town ghost's joke is that all the other jobs were taken. There was nothing available left, and so he took the job of town ghost because the town didn't have a ghost, and his motto is "It's a living."
Well,
do you come up with these characters, or are you assigned these characters?
No. Well, okay.
Do you think somebody else would have come up with that, Iyaz?
Well,
like,
yeah, because they're
on.
all part of the same Renaissance fair. I would think there's like a group of them thinking like, okay, let's throw some ideas out there, like a writer's room kind of concept. Like
all right.
table.
I'll give you a real quick explanation. I mean, the way it tends to work, like the Admiral character is essentially the same character I played when I first worked at the festival from 1999 to 2001. I did 3 seasons as the mayor of the town, and the mayor was this very kind of sniveling kiss up to all the royalty. And it's exactly the same character, except I'm higher status as the admiral than I was as the mayor. And the only reason I didn't go back to being the mayor is because in my absence, I took more than 10 years off. In my absence, they hired someone who was the new mayor of the town, so I couldn't come back as the mayor anymore. But I like the character so much that we just elevated his rank. But it's the same character, same traits, everything like that.
But in
that case,
does the storyline go season to season? So like is there an arch between like the season you started in and like now?
No, not typically, because you can't expect the people who come any particular season to have been there for previous seasons. But it hasn't happened in the last couple of seasons at the Georgia Festival for reasons I won't get into because it's just too complicated. And who the hell cares unless you happen to live in Georgia?
So you can't just start off each day with a previously and then just run through an hour of plot.
Yeah. Every day is a reset. Every day is a reset. It's like you hit Control-Alt-Delete. And so there typically is a story that happens throughout the day where chapters unfold. The last couple of seasons, there hasn't been one of those because there's no opportunity to tell that story at the way the festival is being run right now. It used to be that we would be able to tell chapters of the story on one of the stages that is located in the festival. The festival has several stages, and you could follow the story. It would actually be in the program. You would know that chapter 1 would play at such and such stage at such and such time. But they've since filled the stages with actual stage acts that are contracted to come in and perform at certain times. So there's no availability to tell the overall story, so they just got rid of it. It's just a festival, so there's no like throughput. There's no narrative to follow. So that's been the case for the last few seasons. Anyway, when you audition, you get a chance to audition as a couple different types of characters. Typically, the people who are the creative department at the festival will give you the opportunity to play a specific character or maybe choose between a couple of character types. And then it's up to you to develop the personality of that character. So in my case, I was asked to either be the mayor or the doctor, and I chose mayor, but I got to be the one to define what made that character tick. As far as the ghost goes, that was done every year on Memorial Day, Monday. They have what they call Big Bit Day. And a bit is just an interaction. It could be an interaction between two characters in front of the audience, or it could be an interaction between a character and the audience directly. Big Bit Day is the day where we get to do things that are a little more outside the norm of what we would typically do. So things get a little more silly, outlandish, tongue-in-cheek. Sometimes there's inside jokes that play out. And for one Big Bit Day, I came in as this ghost character who's not, again, he's not dead. He's just playing the part of a ghost. But everyone in the town acts like he's actually a ghost, so they all play along with it. Everyone kind of rolls their eyes and they're like, ooh, the mug is moving all by itself. And it's just meant to be an incredibly dumb joke that entertains the audience. And it went over really, really well.
For you to play. This is absolutely your character.
Well,
It's
and
a
it's
dumb
fun.
joke that goes on for hours.
But that's the thing, is that the audience loved it. In fact, all the characters love
Yeah.
that guy. Like, I love playing the Admiral because I love playing the Disney villain type character, and I lose all day long. I mean, like one of the interactions you have on the festival grounds are various types of competitions and games. You challenge other characters to a game, and then you typically allow the audience to decide who was the winner. So it might be like a wooing contest or an insult competition or something along those lines. And the audience gets to decide who's the winner. Well, because I would play a bad guy, a very high status, I would almost always lose, even if I did an amazing job, because the audience wants to see the bad guy lose. And it was a lot of fun. But people love the Ghost character because he's so downtrodden, but he's so optimistic that they just think that he's fantastic. So,
can you combine them one year?
It would be weird. Because the two characters are so different. Like
a downtrodden, over-the-top villain.
Also, isn't somebody playing the other characters? So there would be a really weird interaction there at one point.
Yeah. Well, it's odd because like the Admiral is, I mean, all of his motivations are for advancing his own interests. Like, he doesn't care about anyone or anything else, to the point where he often will overstep his bounds in front of his betters. So that's where the opportunity to have him be punished or whatever comes in. Whereas the Ghost is more about, like, he's just determined to be the best ghost there is. So much so, he knows he's so terrifying that he warns people first. So, I mean, it's all, and kids just love him. The kids think he's the funniest thing ever because he's clearly not threatening. He's very much, he's more scared of them than they are of him. And so it's just one of those weird little things. And that's what I'll be doing on Monday.
Sometimes you question whether or not you're describing Jonathan Strickland or the ghosts.
No, Jonathan Strickland, it's easy. This is easy to tell the difference. If I talk about interacting with children in any way, I'm talking about a character.
There we go.
It will not be Jonathan Strickland interacting with a child. Yeah, but anyway, that's this week has been a rough week for me. Just from just tons of stuff is piling up. I'm going to be going on vacation, not next week, but the following week. And you guys know, anytime you have time off planned, just building out the buffer so that you can take the time off adds so much to your workload that it starts to grind down on you. And that's where I am at right now. So I've been a little pissy for the last couple of days, and I've been aware of it. So I've been apologizing to people I am so sorry that I'm even more unbearable than I normally am. But it'll be good. So I'm going to go on vacation.
So where are you going on vacation?
I'm going to the Outer Banks, which is off the coast of the Carolinas. So,
been there times.
Yeah, near Kitty Hawk. So actually, I might visit Kitty Hawk again. I did that last time I went there. My in-laws rent a house over on the Outer Banks, and there are all these huge summer homes. I think there's something like 6 bedrooms in the house that we're renting. It is ridiculous how many there are, and my in-laws will be there. So my brother-in-law and my mother-in-law, and then another couple's going, and their kid is going. So there's a whole bunch of us who will be at this house, and I'm just going to spend a week there. I might even have. I'm pretty sure the house has internet access. So depending on how strong that is, I might be able to even be on a show that week. But we'll see.
So, let me tell you a story.
Sure.
We have no format today. So if you've noticed, the background of my little area here has changed a bit. There's a fan, but there's actually another shelf.
Is that a Dyson bladeless fan?
It's a Dyson ripoff fan.
Oh.
It's like a $40 little dealie. But anyway, so there's been some changes in the apartment. So we were looking for a new place, and we had an application in, and the place fell through. So the original plan was, if if the place fell through, we just stay where we are for another year. Now, this place is pretty tiny. It's a 1-bedroom place. And my son is over a lot. So we wanted a 2-bedroom. So the place fell through. We're going to stay until we're not going to stay. So we get into a discussion. Liz and I get into a discussion. We do an emergency overtime 3-day search for apartments. And of course, every realtor shows us a place that's like $400 to $600 more than we're asking to pay. So they're like, oh, if it's amortized, it's only $3,150. It's like, but I was telling you $2,800 is the max. $3,150 even amortizes too much, let alone the $3,460 you're actually asking. Like, it was just insane. So I'm like, this is wrong. So we decided to stay in this apartment and to basically reconfigure the entire space. So we've, like, behind me is a bed where my son will stay, and in front of me is where the living room is because I've switched everything in this space. So we had this little 2-step or 3-step, not drop, what would you call it? A flight to the sunken living room, what used to be the living room. So we move everything, and we're like, hey, let's add some stuff. Let's add something over the TV because the TV is over there. So we add a shelf above the TV. We go to Home Depot. We get a shelf. It's a glass shelf. Of course, I was not expecting to buy a shelf because that was not on the list. I'm sure Liz is overhearing me from the bedroom, so this is going to be fun. So we go all the way to Home Depot, which is really south of here. She says, I can carry the shelf. I said, fine. So she carries this glass shelf on the subway. But it doesn't break. Bring it to the apartment, and I'm going to set it up because when something's got to be hung on the wall, it's my job for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, so I go to set this thing up. I'm like, okay, I'll just start drilling some holes. I get on an ottoman, and as I'm putting up the bracket, I have a bracket in my left hand. It's a 4-foot metal bracket that runs the length of the shelf, and I got a screwdriver in my other hand. Apparently, I shifted my weight a little bit too much to the left on this ottoman, so I start toppling over. In my head, as I'm going horizontal to the ground, is, oh fuck, I think I'm falling. You can't be falling. Oh fuck, you're really falling. Don't impale yourself. So I come crashing down. Liz comes out of the bedroom, looks over there. I'm no longer standing upright. I'm on the ground. First thing I try to figure out is like, can I move my feet? Like, yes, they still work. I go, am I still holding the bracket and the screwdriver? Am I impaled? It's like, okay, I'm still holding that. Good. I'm not impaled. Then I feel some terrible pain in my leg. And so I kind of kick the ottoman out of the way. I kind of scoot out of the way. I can't walk. And it turns out I had hit 2 feet of the ottoman, like the little 2 round discs, which had dug themselves about like a 1/16 of an inch into my shin, like on the top of my shin and the bottom of the shin. And there was a huge fucking scrape, about a 4-inch scrape by about let's say half a centimeter wide. So it's not tremendously large, but I'm like, oh, good, it's not bleeding. Of course, when Liz brings out the isopropyl alcohol, it starts gushing, just starts bleeding. So I was like, great, I feel great. So I got really injured on last Sunday, not the one that just passed, but a couple Sundays ago. The first thing I did after that was get the step stool, finish the fucking bracket and shelf, and then sit down because that was a lot of fucking pain. That was my Sunday a couple of Sundays ago.
I gotta say, based on that story, never go to IKEA because you could die.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because these IKEA shelves behind me, I didn't build these shelves. If I did, I would have died. That bed I had help with. But man, I'm like, it was hilarious because Liz is like, she's freaking out. I'm like, oh, you've never seen me get hurt before. She's like, no. Well, she's known me for 4 years. So like, she's never seen me take a fall, which is amazing because I used to fall a lot. Apparently, when I hit over 30, I stopped doing that. I don't know how that's possible. But now she's seen it, and it really fucking hurt. And use a step stool, kids. That's a future lesson there. Man, I can feel the scab on my leg. It's just not. It wasn't fun, man. Don't do that, anybody. Don't use an ottoman. And I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I do not want anybody seeing this because I had like, who has bandages that long? Like a 4-inch bandage that's just, so it's like basically pads with medical tape everywhere. I look like I was wearing a shin guard for a couple of days.
Well, I mean, did you need to wear shorts? I mean, I just wouldn't have worn shorts.
Well, I couldn't wear shorts even if I wanted to because I didn't want to show that thing off because
Yeah,
it was like 80 degrees in New York and it was like
right.
95% humidity. So and I was going to work. So, it felt great wearing jeans in that weather. And anytime anything brushed up against me, including a dog, one of my dogs, just kind of like, soft, furry little dog just goes past you. And you just want to scream and swear.
Well, I will say, as someone who walks a solid hour to get to work wearing jeans in Atlanta, Georgia, yeah, it's not fun. I don't wear shorts to work.
I pretty
So
much
it
have
is-
zero clue what you guys are talking about. Like humidity, what the hell is that? It's
Go back to
not
when you lived in Baltimore.
Oh yeah,
They had
that
they had
sucks.
humidity in Baltimore. It's basically like, or if you can't picture it, if you're listening at home, because I always say kids, just imagine like you walked into a bathroom, a very small bathroom that has no vent fan after like 20 people have taken showers consecutively in that room, hot showers, and then you walk in and you're like, ew.
Also,
And
if you're talking
shitty,
about
so it
if you're
smells
talking
horrible.
about New York, you should also imagine that at least as many people have taken a piss in that restroom too.
Yes, there's also quite the odor. That's like the best part about winter. Nothing stinks. It's nice.
Although
But-
there is mysterious steam coming out of the ground
Yeah,
everywhere in New York. You're like, is there a steam factory beneath the streets? What the hell is going on?
yeah. I saw some like television style New York when we were looking at apartments like above 100th Street. Like people just standing on the sidewalk talking to each other, not trying to go anywhere, but they live in town. It's like, or like they live on the block. It's like, what are you doing there? Like, don't you have something to do? And they don't. They're just literally just older people talking, I guess, waiting to die. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just don't be in the way. So I didn't want to live above 100th Street is my other part of the story there. So bloody, painful, and didn't move. That's the what you have to learn. But I did change the way this looks. So, and Liz got me flowers after I got hurt. So that was helpful.
Well, I've got a movie question for you guys, and this might end up being the shortest conversation ever. Have either of you seen the new Mad Max film?
No.
No, I saw
Christ.
Pitch Perfect too.
Well, that's the fucking shortest conversation ever.
I will
Well, that-
probably go see it this week. However,
You should
Yeah.
you should know Mad Max Fury Road and Pitch Perfect 2, it's the same plot.
That's what I heard. Like,
I heard that
can't be
actually-
true, though, because Pitch Perfect 2, I had a problem with it, and that's the fact that my girlfriend and I figured it out while walking back from the movie. We're like, why wasn't that so great? Oh, there's zero conflict in the film.
What?
That's a rookie mistake.
Yeah, like it's
So it's really just showing people who sing real good.
kind of, and if there is conflict, it's resolved within a solid 3 minutes.
You know, they must have seen that classic masterpiece film, Daddy Can't Dance,
Right.
and then
No.
just
Yeah.
Wait, that
pretty-
movie had conflict.
yeah, but it resolved a lot of the conflicts immediately
It-
after establishing them.
It had more conflict than Pitch Perfect 2. I will definitely give it that.
Yeah.
I watched Pitch Perfect, the original one, a couple of months ago, and I thought it was really good. And I know Eric Hewitt said it was really good, and I was like, Eric, Sandine and his fucking stupid
Eric.
ideas. that darn Eric is what I call him in my phone. Actually, that's his contact info. But I heard Pitch Perfect 2 not only doesn't have has no conflict, but apparently it's just kind of, it just pales in comparison. It's nowhere near as good as the first. Is that
Yeah.
what you found?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, the other thing that kind of stuck out to me was it seemed like they were just throwing every joke every writer had an idea for, like at the screen, So it was just like, every joke that was written in that script made it through to the final version. Half of them stuck, half of them were horrible.
It's killing me that we're having a conversation about Pitch Perfect 2 when Mad Max Fury Road fucking came out over the weekend. It is killing me.
Didn't Pitch
I-
Perfect 2 come out on the 15th?
Same, yeah.
Same
Yeah,
weekend.
Same weekend. Yeah,
Right.
what's
Yeah.
wrong with that?
You're
We're
right.
both
You're right.
opening movies, Jonathan.
Well, to be fair, also Pitch Perfect 2 did much better box office than Mad Max did.
Yeah, apparently killed it.
But yeah, it just out of the three of us, I would have thought that Mad Max would have been like the bonding agent more than Pitch Perfect. I have not seen either Pitch Perfect film, which is odd because I'm
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy like musicals and stuff, and I enjoy the concept of what is going on, but I haven't seen them. So I need to at least watch the first one, apparently.
Yeah, the first one's pretty good. No, I heard Mad Max was absolutely amazing. The difference, the reason I didn't see it actually was because we were walking downtown and we finished dinner or breakfast, and Pitch Perfect 2 was the closer time of a movie start. And that is my story. So
see, we went to Movie Tavern and had breakfast while watching Mad Max Fury Road.
What food pairs? Hang on. What food pairs best with Mad Max 2?
You mean Road Warrior?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't.
Not 2. Sorry.
Okay, so Road Warrior, the best one is like a steak that's been charred to a crisp. I would say Sandy's. Sandy's would go great with Fury Road because there's a lot of sand. So like the cookie, the Sandy, those would be fantastic.
I thought you were talking about the cookie, but I almost had to look that up and be like, am I missing a food?
No. I will say Fury Road was a lot of fun. I didn't love it as much as a lot of my friends did because I felt like there wasn't enough story there. But then I'm also one of those people who I'm not big on action films anymore unless there's something compelling going on, because otherwise I could just watch a Michael Bay movie if all I want to see is a series of explosions that are shot really well. But Fury Road's better than that. Don't get me wrong. Fury Road is better than just random explosions.
Jonathan Strickland shooting down that 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie. I just had some problems with it. Part of it is that, you sacrifice some exposition in order to, one, keep the pacing up, and two, maintain a level of mystery with your characters. The problem I have is that if you make your characters too mysterious, you don't really understand their motivations, and then you have very little invested in those characters. So whether they succeed or fail doesn't matter as much to you. And I want to be drawn in. I want to care about the characters. I might be super picky.
Perfect too.
What's that?
This reminds me of Pitch Perfect too.
Yeah.
They introduce a new character who's like the new girl who joins the group, and here's the deal: you don't give a shit about her the entire time.
That's a problem.
They end the movie on her, and you're like, got it, don't care.
I will tell you, I guarantee that your favorite character in Mad Max Fury Road is going to be the Doof Warrior. If it is not the Doof Warrior, I will be absolutely shocked.
Mm-hmm.
The Doof Warrior, also known as Guitar Guy.
Oh, is that the guitar guy? I was just about to ask. Yeah.
Holy shit. I was like, every time he was on screen, I'm like, this is the best thing that's ever happened on film. Like, it's so amazing. The concept is amazing, and the execution is amazing. Do you know anything about this character? Not a goddamn thing, but it doesn't matter in this case. But it's definitely, I mean, that was so balls out crazy. It was awesome.
Yeah, like the first time I saw like the photos of that, I just imagined the writer sitting there going, "Now hold on, we have this guy with a guitar," and everybody else is like, "This is gold, just done. Let's do it."
Yeah, well, not only think of it this way,
we've got a film now.
He's called the Doof Warrior in the credits. He's never, as far as I know, he's never referred to in the actual film itself. He's just there. Mm. And he rides aboard the Doofmobile, which consists of, it's kind of like this, it's an enormous truck the front of which are a whole bunch of speakers and amplifiers that he is suspended in front of on a harness, playing this badass guitar. And on the back of the vehicle, so it's like this huge wall of speakers. Behind that, on the back, is a line of guys playing oversized drums. So they're providing the rhythm section on the back of the vehicle as he's in front shredding. And I was like, okay, this is the best thing that's been in any Mad Max movie ever. So, by the way, I got into an argument with a coworker who said he thinks this is easily the best Mad Max film in the franchise. I still prefer Road Warrior, but it's good.
I have nothing to say against that. I haven't seen either of the first
Have
two
you what?
in
Have you seen
forever.
Oh, okay.
I've seen the first one.
Yeah.
I saw the first one. That's why I was like, oh wait, the second one. I think there is a second one. I forgot.
Yeah,
that.
there's Mad Max, which is actually, it takes place really before the whole post-apocalyptic thing. It's when everything's falling apart, but before you've gone into this crazy post-apocalyptic world of Australia, which is, it's actually kind of weird to me that the world in Mad Max, I mean, it doesn't match up at all to the world in Road Warrior or Beyond Thunderdome. Like there's not enough time has passed between Mad Max and the other two for that to make sense. But ultimately, I would say that the Mad Max series isn't really about continuity at all, which is pretty obvious. I mean, I'm not revealing anything special here, but it's more about exploring this particular kind of genre, and it does that really, really well.
So you're saying you wouldn't need to watch or get caught up on the other two? Or
I mean,
like
the very beginning of Mad Max Fury Road, there's a little tiny bit of exposition about Max's past where you can glean that he has suffered tremendous loss and now he's just out to survive. Like, he literally says that. So that's all you really need to know about his character. You never learn anything more about Max in this film. Like, he's actually not very important in the movie ultimately.
Yeah,
you know, he is there, and we're living the story mostly through him, but he's not the important character.
So it's like Godzilla.
The
movie's named after him, but
unlike Godzilla,
not a major player.
Unlike Godzilla, Mad Max is actually on goddamn screen for most of the movie.
Oh, he shows up, does he? That's a great fucking idea. It's a wonderful idea.
But no, I would say that Charlize Theron's character, Furiosa, is more important in the movie, and she's great. She's fantastic. I do have a bone to pick with her character too, and that's where I was kind of alluding to the problem of maintaining a mysterious aura around the character. That if the mystery is too great, then you don't know what the motivations are, and therefore it's harder to get invested in the character. That was the major problem I had with Furiosa. Not the performance, which I thought was perfect, but the actual writing, where I felt like there needed to be just a little bit more to explain what her story was to make you care about her. But maybe I'm being super picky, super duper picky.
Well, I mean, that's what you do. And to be honest, we watch a lot of shitty movies, so it really taints your vision after a while.
Well, and it's a good movie. I mean, it is an entertaining, good movie. I will probably go see it again, and I very rarely go see a movie in the theater more than once these days. Usually it's one and done. But it was entertaining enough where I might go see it again. Maybe just for goddamn 240.
Did you see it in 3D or?
No.
No. Okay.
It a single moment in the movie where I was like, this is specifically for the 3D audiences. There's one moment in the movie.
Was it shot in 3D or is it post? I don't even know.
I don't know, but if
it doesn't look like it would have mattered.
For most of the movie, it doesn't occur to you. There's one bit at the end. There's an explosion at the end of the movie where stuff is flying toward the screen where you're like, okay, this is obviously one of those super cheesy 3D movie moments. But it was the only one I noticed. At the time, I wasn't even thinking that, this was all available. So I don't know if they shot it or if they converted it.
I got to see Avengers 2 again with my son this time. So I got to see that twice now in the theater. It's not as bad as everyone says it is. So
I didn't think it was bad. I thought, I mean, I definitely had problems with it. I felt it was really disjointed in parts because, and in large part, it sounds like that was due to Marvel's involvement. You know, the idea that the whole Thor vision pool sequence seemed like it was completely out of place for me, and apparently that was a mandate from Marvel. Oh, and I've got a thunderstorm going on in the background. Woohoo! So that part I thought was unnecessary. That was one of those movies where I felt the pacing was a little weird, and again, I think it was largely because you had the struggle with the studio and the director and writer, and I think it was still a very entertaining movie, and I could see that one again, but I didn't like it as much as some of the other Marvel films.
Eric, have you seen this thing? Age of Ultron?
I haven't yet. My girlfriend has a very hard time dragging me to films. So
Eric, how many times have you seen Pitch Perfect 2?
Well, I mean, so the first one, it was a matinee showing, so that's half price anyway. So right. I don't really even count it. So 3.
What we don't know is Eric likes to dress up as characters from Pitch Perfect 2. There's this whole cult movie thing going on around it. They shout back or sing back lines to the movie during the screening.
Right.
Yeah. Oh God, that's going to be a thing if it's not yet. It has to be a thing.
Perfect. I'm not entirely sure it will be. The second one wasn't good enough to carry that tradition. And it wasn't bad enough to carry that tradition.
Gotcha. I've seen it done with lots of, obviously Rocky Horror is the big example, right? Rocky Horror Picture Show being the film that really defined the cult movie experience as far as audience participation is concerned, where it's actually become codified, where there are theaters that do audience participation that have traditional lines shouted back to the screen, and it changes depending upon what theater you go to. It's kind of a weird thing. And I think there are a couple of other examples I can think of. The Room would be, Tommy Wiseau's The Room. That would be a big one where that has...
You know what's sad? The first time they released that on Netflix, we're going to have to watch it.
Yeah, have either of you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
I don't even know what this is.
You've never heard of
The Room? Like Eric and I both simultaneously. What?
Well, this is part of the cult experience. Apparently, if you haven't seen The Room, people are going to yell at you about it. So yeah, I don't know what we're talking about.
I'm not yelling at you. I haven't seen it yet either, but I know what it is. It is legendarily awful.
It's from 2003.
It's a film. It's a film that's so bad that now Tommy Wiseau, who is the what a lot of people would call the delusional force behind the film, goes around claiming that the whole thing was meant as satire in the first place, whereas everyone else who's was involved in the movie says, nope, this was a sincere attempt to do a film, and it's only because of the cult film reaction from people who are celebrating how terrible it is that he is now kind of retconning it and saying that it was all intentional. And they're like, no, none of this was intentional. It was a mess. It was a mess by the way it was executed, but it wasn't intended to be a mess. Riff Tracks Riff Tracks just did a thing about it where they did a live Riff Tracks where, the guys from Riff Tracks movie.
What's funny about this to me is that it's got a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is higher than Biodome. So is it that bad?
Well, there's some people who maybe gave it a positive review for the fact that it is so terrible, right?
Also, have any of these people seen Rock and Roll Frankenstein?
Yeah. Well, have
we checked? Is that Rotten Tomatoes? Rotten Tomatoes.
That's terrifying. I don't want to know.
I don't want this to show up in
I will say according to that score, The Room is trouncing Paul Blart 2.
That's true. It is. Which also great box office smash. The funny thing about the funny thing about when I was at NAB in Vegas a month ago or whatever,
Yeah.
was seeing the giant Paul Blart 2 like 4K displays up and down the strip. Oh, and of just him on the Segway, like riding around. I'm like, really? This is we're doing this? This is a thing? Like somebody is blowing their entire advertising budget on this film?
Wait a second. I just went to IMDb. You know, I looked up The Room just now, and it had a 3.5 star rating. I look up Rock and Roll Frankenstein because I want to make sure I have the right apostrophes around the end so I can look it up on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 4.7 rating. So it's rated higher than The Room. Now I'm really intrigued about The Room. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as offensive, but
yeah. Well, I mean, you could argue that homophobes loved Rock and Roll Frankenstein.
That's what is the Venn diagram of movie reviewers and homophobes?
Well, for Rock and Roll Frankenstein, it seems to have a pretty strong crossover.
It's right in there.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, wait. I must have beat the wrong fucking thing because on Rotten Tomatoes, Rock and Roll Frankenstein, 60% fresh, audience score 25%.
There must be only like 5 reviewers on it, or like professional reviewers or something.
You are correct. It is 5 total.
Yeah.
3 fresh, 2 rotten. Of the audience, there's been 91.
So here's what we
members.
also need to know now: those 3 reviewers who rated that fresh, we should follow them and find every other film they've rated because it's gotta be horror.
I just want to. What publications did they write for? That's what I want to know.
Trauma magazine.
Trauma?
I don't know.
Are you fucking with me? You are fucking with me.
I am.
Maybe they like the effects.
So it's Apollo Guide and Film Threat, apparently.
Yeah, Scott Weinberg of Apollo Guide. We need to. I gotta find this full review. I gotta
call out on Twitter and be like, guys, do you want to come on the show? Because like we'd love to chat with you about this.
So
movie.
far, I've gotten 1 error and 2 Kickstarter pages for the full review link, so they are gone.
Well, the one from Scott Weinberg, the excerpt from Scott Weinberg says, intent on offending virtually any viewer out there, though those with open minds and strong constitutions may find themselves guiltily enjoying themselves. I would argue that the whole intent on offending virtually any viewer was so transparent and ham-fisted that, you know, it was there was no art to it. There was nothing remotely entertaining about it. I mean, you can go out and tell a terrible version of The Aristocrats that is not at all entertaining. Yeah. It's not it's just shocking, but no entertainment there. The challenge is telling it in such an entertaining way that people are amused and offended at the same time. This movie did not do that.
No. Well, speaking of which, I'll repost those archives some point.
I'm glad
I'm just trying to get
that point where Eric's like, I better say this before somebody asks me.
It's just gonna happen. I can post the direct link to the Rock and Roll Frankenstein on Twitter, so I'll actually just do that, and then I'll do the rest of it.
Yeah, I think that's the most important episode until we get to episode 150 where we watch it again, and
what episode are we on?
For that. We're like at 120 or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
okay, we got time.
Like 3 years before we hit 150 at the rate that we record. Yeah.
And the other
although if we do more of these, because I mean there are days. Here's a peek behind the curtain, dear fans. There are days where it's a recording day and we're like, we can't record because we haven't watched the movie yet. And that's the reason why we cancel for a week. This week we were like, nah, we're going to get together and record anyway. We just won't talk about the movie. So if we do this more frequently, we're gonna eat up that buffer way faster.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I had the story of me falling horizontally on the ground, which is just I don't want to do that again. And I had a couple of the boy story of him swearing, so I'm going to be fresh out of those. So don't worry about that. Nothing ever happens to me regularly. So
once every month or so, something notable happens to Iyaz.
I was really looking forward to talking about Mad Max, and you guys deflated that right away.
Well, maybe you should have told us to watch the movie.
Well, I'm
like
sorry. I didn't realize that the insanely awesome advertising for this movie didn't convince you that you need to do that on your own.
The fact that it was literally everywhere for a week straight. It spoke to me, but
where have you seen the ads for this thing? What are you watching?
Well, let's see. I watch Agents of...
Internet, Iyaz?
Yeah, there is this thing called the internet, and there are ads on it.
Where? Okay, be more specific.
So
please.
There's also a little site called YouTube, which occasionally has an ad play before a video that you play, and sometimes that ad happens to be a preview. And there have been a lot of Mad Max previews out there. I've also seen it like in other places, but actually I was mostly seeing it on television when the only TV I watch right now is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I would see it occasionally as a preview in the middle of that. So,
oh yeah, I got TV. I got kind of TV. I got the Sling.
Well, that's
TV.
good because that goes well with the 48 cable boxes that you own.
No, we signed up for this.
They're not compatible.
Yeah, they don't work. No, we signed up for Sling TV the other day, and I promptly realized that. Wait, I hate TV. TV's horrible. Like,
yeah, live TV. Like, I was talking to somebody at work about this because like there are all these fucking ads. They take forever. Yeah. Everyone who complains about Hulu is like completely wrong because the ad breaks while they suck.
No. Yeah, Hulu. Great, I'll do it.
It's like oh, it's 60 seconds of ads and they tell you how long the ad break is. It's like that's fucking awesome. Versus like waiting 6 or 7 minutes before the thing comes back. You're like, how? Well, they're not gonna wrap up.
The Sling TV app is so strange because. You're limited in what you can do in every channel at random times. It's like, no, you can't watch this show on this channel. Okay, fine, whatever. Okay, you can't pause this channel. Okay, fine. I'll go to the next one. Because some of them, you can pause it, so you can give yourself your 15-minute buffer, pause it, and then fast forward through the commercials. Can't do that on every channel. It's horrible.
Well, I mean, the only reason I was watching stuff specifically Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when the episodes were coming out was because I follow some of the folks who are actors on that show on Twitter. And also I follow a lot of people who are fans of that show on Twitter. And it was really just preserving myself from spoilers.
Yeah.
So, that's really the only, because otherwise I tend to just wait and watch.
Speaking of spoilers, apparently none of us are Mad Men fans, huh?
Never saw it.
I watched.
No one.
I finished it. I watched every episode.
Oh, you did?
I got caught up. I got up early on Monday to watch it because I get it on iTunes, and I enjoyed it. But also, like, I think I saw somebody's like one tweet about that. I wanted to minimize the spoilers when it came to that. But then again, it's kind of hard to spoil that show. Well, I guess you could kind of spoil the finale, but it's...
Well, there was a long time where people were thinking that because of the iconography in the opening credits, that the last episode was going to feature Don Draper throwing himself out the window.
Yeah, that's what people thought about the Breaking Bad opening too. They thought like it's just going to end with the periodic table, but it wasn't that literal.
Yeah. Now, Iyaz, after watching the finale of Mad Men, would you like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony? Would you like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company?
I mean, I could try. I don't think I could afford to do that. You're in Atlanta. Maybe you have an in. I don't.
Oh yeah, no. World of Coca-Cola is just a couple of miles down the road.
I can't afford to buy the world of Coke. I can buy the world a Coke, one of them. All right, they're gonna have to share.
All right, you guys got to get a shit ton of straws.
Yeah, it'll fit in this thing. But yeah, I like the ending.
If you guys ever are spending time in Atlanta, we'll have to go to the World of Coke so you can see what corporate indoctrination is all about. when it's
That sounds fantastic.
presented in the form of entertainment and tourism.
I've been to Hershey Park.
It is like Hershey Park, but concentrated into a single building.
Oh.
Does it
Well,
smell like Coke?
sounds shorter.
It's actually it well, I haven't been to the new one. So there used to be there's a region of Atlanta called Underground Atlanta. And it's called that because it's literally underground. There's a whole section that was built up and then stuff was built on top of it. And now it's just kind of like a tourist
Weird
trappy mall.
post-apocalyptic.
It feels like a post-apocalyptic mall or a mall, as we would say today.
Or a mall.
Um,
Yeah.
And but there next, like across the street from the mall area, was the original location of the World of Coca-Cola. In fact, the giant revolving Coke sign, I believe, is still there. I don't often find myself in this particular part of downtown Atlanta, so I'm not sure that it's still there, but I think it is. Anyway, they built a new facility right across from the Georgia Aquarium, which is the Georgia Aquarium is amazing. It is well worth a visit. But across the way is the new World of Coca-Cola, and I have not yet gone into the new one. My wife's been, which is funny because she's a Pepsi girl. She grew up in Philadelphia and is more of a fan of Pepsi than Coca-Cola. But she went with some friends of hers and talked about how, it felt like it was an exercise in brainwashing as you make your way through the various. Because as I remember, and I assume the new one is like this too, there were a couple of different rooms where you could go and sit down and watch some videos. One of them was essentially kind of talking about Coca-Cola's corporate philosophy, which seemed to suggest that it could bring about world peace if people would just drink a goddamn Coca-Cola once in a while. And then there was another one that was literally just a loop of Coca-Cola commercials, including the famous hippy dippy "I'd like to teach the world to sing" Coca-Cola commercial from the 70s. And so then at the very end of the tour, when you get through the whole thing, and like there are areas that are set up to show like Coca-Cola memorabilia and old advertising, like including the Santa Claus stuff, all that kind of thing. And it's pretty neat. But by the time you get to the very end, they have the tasting room where you can try all these different Coke brand products from around the world, including like weird shit that is not sold in the United States. And that's pretty fun too, just to try all the different stuff. You will get so fucking buzzed off sugar by the time you leave that room. It's like you were Augustus Gloop and Willy Wonka and done that dive into the chocolate river. You'll just yee! And then you crash like 30 minutes later. But anyway, it's worth going to just for the kind of like the shock and awe value of the experience.
I went to the Jelly Belly factory in Wisconsin, somewhere in Wisconsin, some small town in Wisconsin, and yeah, I remember having that experience as a child, where it was actually the Willy Wonka experience of, wait, you're telling me I can eat as many of these jelly beans as I want right now? Well, sir.
You, sir, are about to be out of a significant amount of money.
That's weird because I went to the Crayola factory in Pennsylvania.
How many crayons did you eat, Iyaz?
They didn't let you take any damn crayons. So I don't. That's not even fair. Let alone eat them.
I can just imagine a picture of Iyaz at the end of the tour. He's just got all these different colored teeth. He's been chewing on crayons.
Well, yeah, they're non-toxic.
You had a terrible childhood.
Yeah. You know what's terrible about it? I didn't have the Dr. Seuss books. I grew up with the Golden books, so everyone was like, you know about the Cat in the Hat? I'm like, what the fuck's a cat in the hat? And like it was a big deal because I had the Golden books and nobody else knew the Golden books where I was growing up. And of course, Dr. Seuss is like the end all be all. So that's part one of my shitty childhood right there. And the Crayola factory. What's that?
Did people not have Golden books? Like, I'm confused about this. Was there like were there two factions of people who had it was either Dr. or Golden books?
It appeared that way. It's like if you had the World book at home or the Britannica. You didn't have both. That's crazy. You either had one or the other.
Fair
So maybe it's a West Coast thing. Liz is telling me she had both because
Yeah,
I don't
your
know
mother was a librarian.
What are the
don't
golden
count.
books?
they just had the gold spine, like the Berenstein Bears, and right.
That kind of stuff. They're like
Yeah.
they're just
Okay.
anything that's not Seuss almost. Anyway, let's talk about more shitty childhood. So I'm making the boy watch Star Wars, right?
When you
And
say making the boy watch Star Wars, are you talking about the whole series or just the original trilogy or what?
we're doing the machete cut, which is 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, no 1. And so 4, I did not remember being as good as it was, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. Like, oh, this is really fucking good. The one thing I didn't remember, which I think, and the world can thank Jar Jar Binks for this. C-3PO is one of the most annoying characters in that movie, and I don't know how no one else complained about this character until like me now. Like maybe Jonathan, do you remember people complaining about 3PO? Because he's just like really whiny, complainy, and it's like, just shut up. Like Han Solo just got encased in carbonite, and you're like, turn around, Chewie. I can't see. It's like, shut up.
Well, first of all, that's Empire, not A New Hope.
Well, I saw 4, 5, and we went 4, 5, and 2 already, so that's part of his annoying stuff.
Gotcha. Well, I there were people who actually did point out, like, you know, people describe him as being really prissy or irritating and whiny, but the other characters recognize this too and call him on it. So it's like characters actually either ignore him because of that, or they are actively saying, "Hey, shut up." So it's different from Jar Jar. Jar Jar was like irritating, and people are just like, "Oh, it's okay." No, it's not okay. It was not okay, and you should have made it clear that it was not okay. I mean, his own people didn't want him anymore. That should tell you something about this guy. So, you know, I think it was a little different, and I mean, he was mainly used as comedy relief in a way that wasn't egregiously awful. And for the record, you know what? I know the overwhelming opinion, at least in geek circles, is that Empire is the best of all the films, but I really feel that A New Hope was the best. That's my favorite still. I think that one was the best film out of all of them, partially because it had a beginning, middle, and end that didn't require a continuation of the story for it to have a satisfying conclusion. Empire ends with essentially a cliffhanger, and that, I think, makes it a little weaker. And perhaps you could argue that it's unfair to say so, simply because the resolution of that story is Return of the Jedi, and most people view that as the weakest of the original trilogy. I don't have any argument against that. I do think it's the weakest, but I still think A New Hope is the best of the three. I really think Empire's an awesome movie. I love it, but I think New Hope is a better film.
Yeah, with Empire, my son was like, "Are they going to get out? Is he going to get out of there?" And I'm like, "No, that's the end of the movie. Like, there's another one coming up." But yeah, the bad guys won here. He goes, "The bad guys won?" I'm like, yeah, that happened in this movie. And he's just like, he's very confused by that concept since none of the stuff he watches ends that way. And so watching the second one, you know, I thought the second one was good when I first saw it, because I think the first, you know, episode 1 was still fresh in my mind. After watching 4, 5, then 2, I've been watching like basically one a week. 2 was really bad.
Yeah.
Like, way worse than I remembered. Like, just really bad. I thought maybe I was harsh on it because I was younger. It's like, no, it's just a really badly done movie. It's just, the CG is very distracting. The acting is hardly there. I don't even know how to describe this stuff. It's just, it was just
and
miserable.
the story is terrible. I argue that I think the prequel trilogy is universally awful. Absolutely terrible. Like anyone who's talked to me for 5 minutes knows my opinion on the prequel trilogy, because it'll come up. You know, people will be like, "Oh,
it has."
I'm sorry. I'm sorry
for Jesus. We could quantify that at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like people who just met me and they're like, Jonathan, I want you to meet so and so, and the person would be like, yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not all here. I just found out that my uncle passed away. I'm like, that's awful. You know what else is awful? The prequel trilogy of Star Wars is just
I thought
shit.
you'd get there. I thought you'd get there from like, oh, your uncle passed away. That reminds me of Uncle Owen who died. You know what also reminds me of Uncle Owen? The prequel trilogy. I thought
You know
go
what
that
also
way.
you know what also died? My childhood when the prequel trilogy came out.
Yeah.
No, I
That should be a list, actually. Ways, segues into talking about how bad the
How
prequel
awful.
trilogy.
give me a conversation. I will show you how to make that about the prequel trilogy. No, I'm not really going to put that challenge out there because someone will call me on it. No, but the more now. Granted, I should also point out I have not watched any of the prequel trilogy in years, and out of the three films, I saw the first one a couple of times. I saw probably more like 4 or 5 times total if you add up all of them. I saw the second one maybe twice, and the third one I only ever saw once in the theater on opening night, and that's the only time I ever saw it. I never bothered to watch it again. That being said, and keeping in mind that there are many years between me and viewing those, I argue today that out of the three, episode one is the least bad. It's awful, but I argue two and three are worse in different ways. I think that two is worse in the sense that it's just a god awful movie that doesn't have any sort of interesting plot, acting, characters, any of that. And the choices that are made are uniformly terrible. And the whole attempt at a love story is so poorly handled that it should be Tommy Wiseau's The Room. And then the third one does so much to undermine the awesomeness of the greatest villain in science fiction history that it is unforgivable. But that's my opinion. and also that Iyaz is willfully subjecting his son to this.
Well, it was originally his idea. He saw the Blu-ray sitting around, and he's like, "Can we watch that?" And we're like, "You want to watch Star Wars?" He goes, "Yeah, Star Wars." And I'm like, "All right." So the first one he got to watch, and the next one he's like, "The next one." Like, I'm not letting him watch one just yet because I don't think he can sit through the senatorial hearings. I'm not kidding. I don't think he can handle it. Like, it's just
Yeah.
pod racing can be fun, I think, but.
Pod racing, that sequence went on for way too long. It screamed George Lucas likes cars that go fast. That's what that sequence seemed to stress over and over. How did your son like the two entries in the original trilogy? I mean, that's definitely a type of filmmaking that you don't see that frequently these days, and I would imagine for a lot of kids it feels pretty slow.
Well, he didn't seem to mind the pacing of either one. He, when it came to 4, he was more interested in like just all the weirdness about it. Like, okay, like they're living in huts and even Luke when he's just like pouring liquid into these cups, like everything looks a little different. So he was very intent on watching all these things. When it came to the fifth one, there was a point where Luke is training, right, and it's pretty slow, but he's really into this thing. Luke's training is on his hands. He's on a handstand, and everything is slightly levitating. So the boy who's sitting in front of me turns around and goes, "Dad, can you teach me to do that?"
Sorry, son. My midichlorian count isn't high enough.
Even if mine was, his maybe not. So like, it was the concern of like, I have to tell him I can't do this, and also I have to explain to him like I could explain to you a lot of the Eastern philosophy stuff that's in there. This whole, force and being one with stuff and like, clearing your mind and basically being very present in the moment, because that's like very, meditation oriented, very Buddhist kind of concepts. Like, and I've been reading into that for a while now. So I'm like, sure, I can teach you that, but I don't know if I can teach you to levitate stuff because that's pretty hard. But other than that, pacing wise, he didn't seem to complain about anything because I think effectively a lot of it's
about
like
electromagnetism, though. I mean,
ooh, I could do that. I could take him to. I should bring him to like another air hockey table. Be like,
get some
kind of the same.
or some earth magnets or something. Just
I guess there's nothing stopping us from coming up with ways to levitate items, but
random
not with our
stuff.
mind. I guess.
Well,
okay. I guess I can.
We could
do
work
it.
out the mind part. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just need some kind of signal from the brain that can be read, and then transmitted somewhere. That's not so hard.
Sure.
That's possible. So yes,
Give me
I will
a
teach
couple
him.
Raspberry Pis and we'll figure this out.
What was his reaction? What was his reaction to the big reveal?
Yeah.
He didn't believe it. He's like, that's his dad? I go, that's his dad. He goes, no. I go, no, that's his dad. That's the point. He goes, no. I'm like, no, but that's what he just said. He's like, okay. He didn't want to believe it just because it sounded so crazy. That was basically the entirety of it. But he just went along with it after a little bit and moved on. He wasn't like shocked or anything, just other than he wouldn't accept it. I think it's basically he grew up on a lot of Pixar movies, right? So they're actually paced very similarly. And you do have a lot of these, like, what's the word? Subtle plot points you get in these things. So I think he's bizarrely quick on this stuff. But yeah, he didn't seem to be terribly upset by it. I want to see what he says when Vader throws the Emperor away. He just chucks him. I'm very curious about that, but he's been pretty chill so far.
Yeah, I just think back to the. You guys have seen the video that one person made of his children watching Empire for the first time, and the son just gets this wide-eyed like at the reveal that Vader is Luke's father. It's one of my favorite YouTube videos ever. It's adorable. It's just the reaction shots. You hear the soundtrack from Empire, but the camera is on the reaction of the kids. And just seeing that moment of discovery, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Star Wars. That's what Star Wars was to me. It wasn't this CGI crap that wasn't at all relatable or believable, and that I didn't care what happened to anybody. It was this.
You know what it reminded me of that excitement, which is really dumb? Which is there was a video of a priest watching the trailer for the newest movie. And it's just his reaction shot watching the trailer, and he is so excited about it as it's going on. It's like I was excited watching him watch this trailer.
Yeah. Well, and I do have high hopes for the new trilogy. I love the fact that they're going with more practical effects. That is huge, I think.
That's
because
the most exciting part about it. Yeah.
And I was watching live during the celebration, the stage thing at the very beginning of it, where they came out and mentioned the fact that they were going to be doing a lot more practical effects, like a lot of the effects. Whenever they could do a practical effect, they did. And it got one of the loudest audience reactions out of everything.
You know, for 2 and 3, because there's so many virtual sets, this would be one of the few times I'd be like, listen, just I don't want to buy this movie digitally. I want to kind of rent it. So every year you patch it with better graphics until you get to the point where we're done. Because I don't want a special, like, cool edition, HD, 4K edition eventually. I just want this thing to get better every year. At least I'm not distracted by it. Because in 4 and 5, I can see, okay, well, fine. You want to put the special edition crap in there. We can just, it doesn't look so bad because it's one element in the whole scene.
So ILM has these master textures somewhere, and you just want them updated each year as we get
That's basically
better.
it. Right? Like, render these fucking scenes out, okay? Because, like, they weren't meant for this. And now, look, I'm sure the DVD version looks fine because you're not seeing the green spill on people. You're not noticing. One of the things I noticed the most in episode 2 was, like, a lot of the scenery was, like, maroon and red. And I'm like, oh, that's the color you use to offset green spill when you're doing keying. Like, I've done that. And I'm like, these lazy fucks. Couldn't they do something else? Like, I don't know, keep trying. I don't want to. I shouldn't bash ILM.
They build a goddamn set.
Yeah.
Well, look, they did the best they could with what they got, and I think that today's technology could do it a little bit better. So keep patching 2 and 3 until they suck less. Maybe even recut it. I don't care. Just give me a remix version. Anyway.
Well, guys, I better get going. I keep hearing banging, and I have no idea what's going on. So I need to find out if my wife is in trouble.
Next time on Podcast Without Pretense.
She was in trouble.
I keep hearing this banging, and I have to leave.
Is the banging in my headset, or is that coming from you guys?